Hi you guys, welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. My name is Melanie and I thought I would start a new type of series on my channel that I'm calling Inspired By, where I share with you something that is inspiring to me and I break it down into the elements of what inspires me and how that translates into either a scrapbook page or a card. So for today's video, I thought I would pull some inspiration from the Close to My Heart catalog for March-April 2022. In particular, I am feeling very inspired by both of these layouts. Now they are intended to be 6 by 8 and obviously they're designed to work with the stamp set. I am not going to do that. I'm not going to focus on this aspect of it. I'm just looking purely at the design itself, and I thought I would pull a couple page kits to make 2 double page layouts. So the kits that I've chosen from my stash are these ones here with this butterfly paper. I paired it with this peach and this darker peach and then the green. And the second kit, this was from the same paper pad, is this leaf print with the mint color and then that kind of mustard yellow and then a wood grain. So let's break down the inspiration. I was talking to some friends a while ago and they were telling me how they had a hard time taking a completed project and translating it into their own project. In other words, to make it their own, versus if it was in a sketch format, it was easier for them to see past how the original designer embellished, used color, etc. So I thought I would take each one of these and translate these roughly to a sketch. I don't normally do this myself, like I don't normally sketch this out, but I do think about this in my head. I did say I was going to do a double page layout, and we're basically going to do some sort of iteration of this twice. So basically we're going to repeat the pattern. So first of all, the very first thing I noticed were these strips of colored paper in the background, and they have 4 of them, which works really easily for translating to a 12 by 12 layout. So again, I'm just going to roughly sketch this in, so the measurements are not going to be precise. And obviously my nail lines are not going to be straight. But basically we would translate that into 4 bands. So these would be roughly 3 inches each. Okay. Now, do I need to use 4 different patterns? No, I don't. You could do just 2, right? Alternate. You could even in theory do 1 and then have some sort of like thin strip down the middle to separate it and give it some interest. So that's the very first component. Then the next thing we've got here is this really long rectangle block. Now, based on the dimensions here, I would hazard to guess that this is probably about 5 inches because I'm assuming this is a 6-inch photo. Okay, another point of reference that you can take is that it spans 2 of the colors and it touches on the 3rd. So we could just sketch in a band or a block that goes something like this, right? Now it has a scalloped border, so we want some sort of decorative edge, so that's what we'll put here. And because I am making this a double page, I am actually going to rotate this design so that it looks like this. Okay, that makes sense. And I am going to extend this all the way across. Okay, so now we've got our pattern paper band that goes this way. If I were to try and make some sort of guesstimate on the width of this, I would say, because we know this is going to be about 3 inches, I'd probably go about 1 inch for this and 1 inch for that, so that's 2 inches and 6. So I would make this 8 inches. And how far this way would we go? I would probably leave this at 2 inches because this will leave 2 inches here, 2 inches here. And so then to get a nice even mat, I would leave this at about 2. So this will be an 8 by 10 block. Hopefully that makes sense and I haven't lost any of you. Now they have the photo going vertical. Obviously I could do that and the photos would easily fit within here because this is an 8-inch wide block, so 6-inch photos would work quite well. This way you would get one photo in, so with 4 inches left over, so you could do some sort of combination. Because I'm doing a base page, I am not going to worry about photo placement at this point, and I'm just going to leave it as is, which is this block. Now they do have another block matting the photos. It's up to you if you want to incorporate that. You could, in theory, you know, sketch in another border or another mat on top of here. I'm going to leave it out again because I'm playing with dimensions. I think I'm okay with not including it. They also had the title on this side, but because we've rotated it, we need another place for the title. So I would probably put the title up here. Okay, and there is this band of glitter tape along this one edge. That doesn't make sense anymore for me to have it here because I'm going to connect this into a double page layout, but I could easily put a strip here, whether it's a strip of paper, strip of washi, border sticker, whatever. Definitely could do that. Okay. Now, if we look at the original design for embellishments, they have a column and one here. So we do have that kind of visual triangle idea. So if we were to translate that, we would have some sort of embellishment here. Possibly some sort of embellishment down here, and maybe another smaller one over here somewhere. Okay, so we've got that straight line, and then we have this visual triangle that forms this way. And then we would just mirror it the other way around. So we would flip everything over and then butt the 2 pages up. Will I add embellishments on my base page? Probably not, because I want to leave my photo placement options open. If I start putting embellishments, that could restrict where I want things to flow. So that would be our sketch 1 for our first base page. Now let's look at this one. This one is super easy. Again, it's just 3 bands of paper and a photo with a little bit of an embellishment here and an embellishment down here. Again, this is 6 by 8, so we need to translate this into a 12 by 12. So we've got a slightly wider here compared to this one, and then we've got 2 thinner bands. Just from my own kind of preference, I would probably make this first strip about 8 inches wide. So we would go probably about here. Okay, so this would be 8 inches. And that would leave this strip here 4 inches. And then what I would do is I work backwards, right? I probably will cut the paper this way, but then I will adhere these bands over top of the seam. As far as these smaller strips could go, you could go a couple different ways. You could kind of go the dimensions or proportions they have here, which looks like it's about 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 inch. Or because we're going to a bigger dimension, you could increase it. So I'm thinking that this band here I want to make about 1 inch. So we're just going to go 1 inch. So that's 1 inch, and then this one here I'm going to make 1/2 inch. Okay, so now we have that basic layout. Again, we're going to be doing this as a 2-page spread, so this would be flipped over the other way. And I probably would have photo placement more over here than over here. So I could see me doing like a 4 by 6 photo, 4 by 6 photo. Again, this is a base page, so I am going to leave this open and give myself options You could easily follow up here and do some sort of banner, right? Some sort of banner detail up in that upper corner, and then some sort of repeated pattern down here that you would then extend onto the second page. I'd probably put the title up here, okay? And I probably would have either on this side or on the other side, more than likely on the second page, would be where I would add the journaling, and I would probably add like a little journal box or something up here, or if there was space allowed, journaling down here. Okay, so that is how I would translate these. Let me go and pull out a trimmer and let's get started. So now that we have a rough idea of where we want to go, let's talk about how we actually translate this. Now I used a kit, a page kit that I've already pre-assembled, and I can already see that I'm going to have a problem because I'm making a double page spread. So I'd originally said, let's make this 8 by 10, which is not going to work because I don't have 2 of this particular sheet. And I was thinking that that would be a fun mat. This big piece here would be fun to have it in this color. So we have to make some sort of modification to make that work. And so one way to do that is to split this in half, and it's kind of what the sketch already looks like, right? So we've got the seam from the pattern underneath. We could make this 4 by 10 and this one 4 by 10. And what we effectively would be doing is we would have 4, 4, and we'd still be left over with a 4-inch strip. And then we would take one of the coordinating colors and do the same. And I'm thinking, because this is going to be on top, I would like more contrast in the back. So I'm thinking that what we're going to do is strips of this green and dark coral and rotate them. And then this will be a band. You can picture this on top. Okay. I think that will look quite good, and I'm reserving the right to add some additional layers. So let me get cutting and I'll come back and show you where we are. Okay, so I ran into a little hiccup. This paper was not perfectly 12 by 12, so we're gonna have to make some adaptations to make it work yet again. So I have 2 of these 4 by 10 in the light peach, and I've got 2 in the print, and I have 4 roughly 3 by 12s. But as you can see, the 4th one is probably about 1/8 of an inch too short, which is a bit of a bummer. So I've got 4 in the green and 4 in the dark peach. Not thrilled. So the next thing we're going to need is some cardstock to start adhering things to. And we're going to come up with plan B. Okay, so to make this work, I took that thinner piece, measured it out, and the nearest roundish number was 2 3/4. So I cut each of the strips of 2 3/4, which, if you factor that in over all 4, will impact in a 1-inch gap or 1-inch shortage. So I also trimmed the length on these. Well, I haven't done it on the peach ones yet, but I've trimmed the length on these by 1 inch. So I will trim these up next, but I just wanted to show you the difference. These are now 2 3/4 by 11 in order to accommodate that paper not being exactly 12 inches. Another option that I didn't take into account, but I do want to mention it in case it is important to you. If you want to have this gutter here gone, because it is going to be a 2-page spread, so you don't want an even frame all the way around, you would only have needed to trim these down by 1/2 inch, so it would be 11.5. And basically then your paper would extend all the way to the edge of the paper. I'm okay with it being framed like this, but if that's something that would bother you, something to keep in mind. Okay, the next step would be to adhere this piece of paper. And again, I am using 2 because I didn't have enough paper to make a big band. And the idea is that we were going to have some sort of scalloped edge on this end, or some sort of decorative edge. I'm going to use the Creative Memories border system. It's got this, I don't know if you can see it, it's like a picket fence. I think that will look cute. So let me slide that in, and we want the border to be on that side. So because we want the border to be on this side, I am going to flip the paper upside down and slide this back, and same thing with the peach. Slide that in, align it, lock it in place, put the guide back, slide this through, lock it in, and punch. Okay, let's glue this down. Okay, that is now adhered, so the only thing that is left is if we wanted to put a band or something on there, and I definitely think it would look better with one. So I have some glitter washi tape here that I'm thinking we can attach as a band, and I don't think I've adhered this completely down so I can wrap it. So let's just go like that. I think adding this washi tape will connect these two bands even more than the border strip does. The other option is, if you don't want to put a band here, you could put a band down the middle. But I think it'll look quite cute right there. And we'll just wrap that around and wrap that around. There we go. So this is inspired by this. I hope you can see the similarities. If we turn it this way, even more so, I think. So let me do the second page and I'll show you the two together. Okay, you guys, so there is the double page base page, the double layout base page. I like how that turned out. If you are curious about how to convert base pages into finished layouts, I do have a couple videos up. I will leave a link to the playlist at the end of this video. But I am planning to do another one soon, so who knows, maybe this will be one that's featured. Okay, let's move on to the second design. Like the first one, because I only have one of each of the pattern papers in here, my original design is not going to work quite as I had intended. I am not going to have enough for 2 8x8 strips. So instead, what we're going to do is we are going to shift this all over, and we will do a 6 and a 6. So basically we're going to take the two focal patterns and split them in two, and then we may adjust the size of these strips to kind of shift everything over. So what am I going to do where? If we look at the inspiration, there was a solid cardstock on this side and then a pattern. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is the leaf pattern will be on the left hand side and this wood grain will be on the right. Now the question is, do I go like this or do I go like this? I'm thinking this way. And then just trim it in half and we'll have it on both sides. So let me start with that, and then for the remaining sheets, we'll figure out exactly what size we want when we get there. Okay, here's what it's looking like so far. Now, because the paper was not a true 12 by 12, I do have a little bit of a gap, and I opted in this case to put the gap on the inside. Normally I would recommend on the outside, you can trim it off, but because I know we're going to put a band, it should be fine. And I am thinking that I am going to slightly increase from 1 inch to maybe making this 1.5 inches. So let me just cut one off so that we can see what it looks like, and then we can assess whether or not we want to do more. And because the pattern design has this side being wider than this side, what we're going to do is we're going to overlap more this way than the other way. So it'll look something like that. And I think I like that. I think I like 1.5 inches. So let me cut another one. I am going to leave this, I think, to 1/4 inch. There's not really a lot of yellow in these, but I think the little pop will bring out the little bit that's in there, but I don't want it to be overwhelming. So I am going to stick to 1/4 inch for the yellow. So let me get that trimmed. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to overlap it slightly on the wood grain, and then this yellow piece is going to go right over here. And you can see how now that makes this side look visually smaller than this side. So let me glue these down and then we will come back. Okay, so this is what the base page is looking like so far. And I did say that we could possibly include some banners in here and some stripes at the bottom. To be honest, I'm not going to take this any further, but what I am going to do is whatever cardstock I have left over, I am actually going to keep with this page kit. If I decide to matte photos, I could do it in either of these two colors. I can cut out banners at a later date, you know, just leaving my options available. So I will actually just paper clip these together and store them with my page kits just like that. Now we do have some cardstock left over from the first kit. So let's see if we can come up with another page. When I am wanting to use up scraps, I really do try to use them as they are. So I try not to trim them down or cut them or anything like that, because that just adds more scraps to the mix, and we clearly do not need any more. So I have a couple of these really long bands, and I have 2 of these papers here. I have some strips. These are the ones I trimmed off in order to make the previous strips 2 3/4. So I'm thinking we could probably do some sort of rotational look like that. What else do I got? I still have another one of these. I've got 2 of those and 1 more of these. And then I have a bunch of these small strips that I cut off. Let me see if I can come up with something. You know, the challenge is to try and use these all up. So let me see. Okay, so this is roughly the design that I came up with. These would be trimmed to equal these squares. I did trim these down to 10, so I have 2 small scraps. I know, I just said try to use them. Try to use them in their fullness, but you know what? If that's all the scraps I have left at the end, I'm okay with. And then I'm thinking maybe some sort of banners out of these on the bottom and top. I'm not too sure yet exactly what the size is going to be, but that's how I think I'm going to use those little pieces. Now, I actually don't like this on white. I think it needs something to frame it, and I found a piece of green cardstock in my stash that's very similar, and so I think this layer we're going to add on here, and then we're going to add it on top of the white. So let me get gluing this down and I'll show you the final base page. Okay, you guys, here's how the base page turned out. I opted to do these little flaps around the edge instead. I can either use these as journal clusters or, you know, maybe add like a decorative brad in each one. I'm thinking maybe the title across here and a photo down here. That's what I'm thinking, or maybe a couple photos this way. Lots of options still, even though this is somewhat intended to be oriented this way. Obviously, you can always rotate it, and that would still work as well. I hope that you found this introduction to this new series helpful and that you enjoy this kind of thing. If you do like to hear the thought process of how we take something like this and convert it into here, let me know below. I love doing this kind of thing. It's what makes me excited about crafting. I love taking inspiration and making it my own. And so I would love to continue to do this if you're inspired by it. Thanks so much for hanging around with me today. I do appreciate you sticking around till the end. And until next time, happy crafting.